This is a trip back into the King Dude's Wayback Machine, but I wanted to talk about defamation and how they're trying to defame and now destroy the candidate for governor of North Carolina, Mark Robinson. And I have this piece here that we've referenced it before by Laird Wilcox about the practice of ritual defamation. This is what they did to Michael Jackson. And by the by, there was a bodyguard of Michael Jackson's that came out recently and never spoken on the record before and came out and said, okay, I need to clear the record and clear the air here. Michael Jackson did not do what he was accused of. He was not a serial pederast. He just wasn't. He did love children, but he didn't love them like that, and he never did that. I was with him. I was with the man during all of that. He never didn't do it. He was completely innocent of that. His PR people made him take the deal. He didn't want the deal because he was innocent. So you have that, and then you have this. This is from 2004. You're going to hear President Trump, then Donald John Trump of Trump Tower, call into the Larry King show and talk about Michael Jackson. I just thought that since, they're trying to ruin Mark Robinson, whether they're really not, they're trying to get to Trump, and they've been trying to ruin Trump. Here's what Trump did and said about Michael Jackson back in 2004.
That could mean life in prison, and cases like this can depend on the testimony of the child accuser.
In general, the child will be able to recall and recollect with some detail the incident, and that is persuasive to a jury, even if it is the only testimony that is available.
Stop the tape for just a second. That was Kamala Harris, if you didn't catch it. That was Harris before she was the San Francisco DA. She was assisting the Santa Barbara Police Department and the DA in Santa Barbara in trying to get Michael Jackson. Just let me set the table here. When Trump said, I know her from the past, she probably doesn't remember, but I know her, I know she is. That's what he was talking about. I was wondering, what was he talking about when he said, she's a bad person, I'd known her for a long time, she probably doesn't remember, but I know her. He was talking about her trying, and why was she trying to get Michael Jackson to make a name for herself? She wanted to take Michael Jackson down so that she'd be, she's the prosecutor that took Michael Jackson down, or she's the attorney that was assisting the mother who was suing Michael Jackson, was claiming these things. Okay, so here and now, we'll let the tape roll from there. Here's President Trump. You'll hear Trump come in here on Larry King Live in just a moment.
He gave a wave when he was released after booking. He's scheduled for arraignment in January.
Michael's been a long-time resident of Trump Tower, and last night the Donald strongly reiterated his defense of Jackson with Larry King by going after the accuser's mother.
She's had plenty of experience at going after people, and she goes after them viciously and violently, and I saw a story and I read another story about some of the things she's done, and I don't believe it.
But you know what it's like when an indictment comes down.
It's tough.
It's presumption.
It's tough. It's tough to win, but I have a feeling he's going to win, Larry. The interesting thing is I've known Michael from many different standpoints, and Michael would spend a lot of time with my kids. I have beautiful kids, and at the time, like at Mar-a-Lago, and even in Trump Tower, the kids were very young. Michael would come, play with the kids. He just loved children. He was not a child molester, and I am certain of that. He loved children. He'd play with my son Eric and my son Donald, and he'd just play with them forever. He loved children, but he was not a child molester. And, that whole final saga of Neverland and the police and what they did was, I think, a very, very bad part of Michael's life.
So when you think of, or when you, and we don't have the clip here, but he did mention that he knew Harris from way back. And that's what he was talking about. Mike Parrott played a clip here on this show, or on the Parrott Talk show, I don't know, 4 months ago, some back in the spring. And it was all about the death of Michael Jackson, and did Michael Jackson really did he die from what was it, propofol? Propofol? Did he die from the propofol? Was there something else that was working there? Was Mossad involved? And Parrott was playing these sound bites about this and about how Michael Jackson was a very complicated figure, but he was not what people thought that he was. And you know, when I heard when I got that clip from Ben Swan, when Ben Swan put that out, and I think he got it from Greg Price, that old clip of Trump talking back in the day about Michael Jackson. It just reminded me of that, and just thinking about what I had heard that Parrott had talked about here, about how Michael Jackson was, you know, you think about this. Most of you listeners out there are familiar with MK Ultra. Miniature plane, you can't connect Michael Jackson and MK Ultra. Oh, yes, I can. You want to bet? How did it happen? Let's just stroll down this lane here for just a moment. And I'd love to hear what you people have to say about this in the chat rooms. If you're listening out there and you're not a Founders Pass member, you can chat with us on the YouTube channel. There's a chat on the YouTube. Crusade channel, Crusade Radio Network. Search for it, you'll find it. Or if you are a Founders Pass member or you want to become one, and you should, go to crusadechannel.com/chat, and you can log in there. Think back into the early 1970s. Out of Gary, Indiana, comes this pop music sensation that no one has ever heard of before. 5 poor black children form this thing called the Jackson 5. How old is Michael when he cuts A, B, C, simple as O, Ray? I mean, all those great songs that, you know, Barry Gordy signs him up on the Motown record label, and then Dick Clark finds out about it, and he has Michael and the brothers on. He was 11 when he has Michael and the brothers on American Bandstand, and then the rest, as they say, is history here. But at what point, what year is the Jackson 5 or their debut records? Because their last album, which was called, was probably their best, which was called, was it called Victory? V, I want to say, came out in 1980, right around the time Michael Jackson's Off the Wall came out, which may be one of the best records of the pop era, if there is such a thing. Sorry, Fiorella. 1970. What was happening in the United States in 1970? What had happened in 1968? Martin Luther King Jr. is murdered, somewhere around in there. RFK Jr. is murdered. The war in Vietnam, there were still race riots. There were sit-ins at the University of Alabama. The governor of Georgia, George Wallace, is refusing forced segregation. All of this stuff is happening in the late 1960s and the 1970s. What is one of the things that comes along that kind of helps to soothe or to calm or to quell some of this racial strife? Everyone loves music, dude. Music soothes the savage beast, they say. They were chosen, and they made, I say they, CIA, the usual suspects, George Webb's people from the Laurel Canyon series, knew that America needed some black entity made up of black people that was good and wholesome and was representative of the nuclear black family, as an example to show. And so Hollywood, along with the Motown, created this thing called the Jackson 5. Now, I never read a book about it. I've never seen a documentary about it, but just listening to Parrott that day, or the 2 days that he and Alberto talked about this, it might have been Trad Pat that he was talking with on it, and then I did a little bit of a deep dive on it. The Jackson 5 served the purpose and served it really well. And they were just wildly popular. So the first number one is in 1970, Maggie is saying, but they were singing back in the 60s. And folks, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a knock on the Jackson 5 or Michael or the Jackson family at all. I'm just simply how this happens here. And so, you go through these years here, and the Jackson 5 and the Jacksons are cutting or putting all these records out. Many of them by heart, Rockin' Robin. There's a list of them. And then, of course, ultimately, who is it that drives the whole thing? It's never the brothers. The brothers are nothing without Michael. Michael's the entire damn family. And so ultimately, Michael has had it with being the second fiddle with his brothers and what have you, and says, I'm leaving, and then makes it. Then he meets Quincy Jones, and they make that album off the wall, and the rest, as they say, is history. But I feel sorry. I feel pity for Michael Jackson. He's a terribly tragic figure. I mean, seriously, really. You think that of all the things that came his way and the fame and the fortune and all the things, if you watch any fairly done documentary about the life of Michael Jackson, and I'm not saying he was perfect, and this, I'm not making the case that we ought to canonize him or anything of the sort. He was a very complicated man. I think Trump is correct. I think that Donald Trump knew Michael, because he said, man, remember when Bryson DeChambeau, the golfer, said, what do you have on your playlist here? What did he say? He said, I have some Elvis, I got some Sinatra, I got some Michael Jackson. He goes, Michael Jackson came to Mar-a-Lago. So I just think, and now to throw in here that the same CIA, the same deep state, the same MK Ultra style program that did all this. I mean, can you believe that this is the last century of history in the United States has all been programmed by government spooks? That ought to scare the crap out of us. If the realization of that, if that is not enough to drive us all to drink, I don't need an excuse. Full disclosure. Or to get together and rebel. I don't know what is. And I think just Michael Jackson was a terrible, terrible, tragic character in all this. And I don't believe I never believed what they said about him. I never believed it. I never thought he was just, and it's just my spidey sense kicking in. And now that we know that Kamala Harris, in order to put her imprimatur on stamping out supposed bad guys in California, was one of the lawyers for that woman whose child supposedly was molested by Michael Jackson. You heard President Trump. Play the clip again one more time, because I want everyone to, maybe you just joined us and you didn't hear this. To now tie this in together. So now it makes complete and total sense when Trump said, I knew her, and I knew her from way back. She probably doesn't remember. That's how good his memory is, number one. And that's how he knows what an awful, awful human being this woman is. No, you can just play the whole thing. I think the whole clip is worth playing again. Here, it's good. In the beginning, you'll hear, again, why didn't someone else dig this up? Kamala Harris. What, do you remember the name of the kid, or the kid's name never came out? It wasn't Macaulay Culkin, because Macaulay Culkin swears to this day never happened. I loved Michael, and it was never like that at all. All right. So the fact that Kamala Harris is here at the Rosetta Stone moment, of these charges in this case against Michael Jackson, knowing now, then you hear Trump come in. Now, folks, do you believe in coincidences? I don't. All right, Maggie, play the clip, please.
could mean life in prison, and cases like this can depend on the testimony of the child accuser.
In general, the child will be able to recall and recollect with some detail the incident,
That's
and that
Kamala!
is persuasive to a jury, even if it is the only testimony that is available.
Jackson gave a wave when he was released after booking.
I remember
He's
this.
scheduled for arraignment in January.
Michael's been a longtime resident of Trump Tower, and last night the Donald strongly reiterated his defense of Jackson with Larry King by going after the accuser's mother.
She's had plenty of experience at going after people, and she goes after them viciously and violently, and I saw a story and I read another story about some of the things she's done, and I don't believe it.
But you know what it's like when an indictment comes down.
It's tough.
It's presumption.
It's tough. It's tough to win, but I have a feeling he's going to win, Larry. The interesting thing is I've known Michael from many different standpoints, and Michael would spend a lot of time with my kids. I have beautiful kids, and at the time, like at Mar-a-Lago, and even in Trump Tower, the kids were very young. Michael would come, play with the kids. He just loved children. He was not a child molester, and I am certain of that. He loved children. He'd play with my son Eric and my son Donald, and he'd just play with them forever. He loved children, but he was not a child molester. And, you know, that whole final saga of Neverland and the police and what they did was, I think, a very, very bad part of Michael's life.
Folks, I agree with Schaefer. Schaefer 13 in the chat room. Isn't it amazing how these people are all tied? There's no way that is a coincidence. I don't believe in them. You don't believe in them. Don't believe in them. I had never heard this before until last night, until I saw that video. And one thing we can say that we could take away from this, Marketech says this in the chat room, Trump is loyal. You can hear it in his voice. I don't believe it for a second. He met my children. He'd been to Mar-a-Lago. He had an apartment at Trump Tower here. The fact that Donald Trump, Citizen Trump, has been waging some kind of war, whether it's a propaganda war or a war for decency and for a war against the defamation of a good man, Michael Jackson in this instance, has been waging war against Kamala Harris specifically and her ilk. Since, what is that, 2003, 2004? And it goes back further than that. It tells you an awful lot about why this deep state cabal so hates him. So hates him. He's never been one of them. All right, we got a minute and 15. Let's play a Trump clip from Pennsylvania yesterday. How about... No, you can't play that one. It's too long. Number 7. Him talking about Kamala. Kamala, the communist. She's a communist. She is a communist. She's one of them.
Had a debate, and he didn't do too well in that debate. And they came to him and they said, "You're down 21 points and you're going to lose. This can only happen to me." So I end up with somebody new. But here's the thing. All I have to do is expose her for what she is. She's a communist, okay? She's a communist. And this country is not ready for a communist, and hopefully never will be, because that doesn't work. Kamala talks about all these things that she's going to do, but she's been here. Think of it. She's been here for almost 4 years, and she's not done anything. I will do this. I will do that. I will do that. What the hell? She could do them today.
That's the perfect answer to that, right? Why do I have to wait until January for you to fix inflation in the economy, comrade? This discussion here about Michael Jackson with his clip from Larry King Live that has emerged. People are finding, going back to 2003 and 2004. And by the way, that clip is put together from several different sources. There's one report from some unnamed news organization. There is a second clip of trumpets in there from Larry King Live. And then there is another Donald Trump appearance on CNN on Larry King Live. So there's probably 3 pieces of media that are in there that are spliced together. But it's interesting here, though, that Trump and Harris have a history. You know, I'm surprised. Maybe he doesn't completely remember, or maybe he's been told, don't talk about that. That he never brings it up, that it goes all the way back to the Michael Jackson case in 2003 and 2004. I found the clip that Parrott was talking about, and it was actually a discussion that Candace Owens had. So, it's on YouTube, The Disturbing Truth. This is Candace Owens saying, I'm done being threatened. The Michael Jackson and Diddy connection exposed. Y'all can watch the video. Maggie can give you the link in the chat room at crusadechannel.com/chat. Separately, it's 40 some odd minutes long. I don't have time to get into the whole thing. But she says, or her people say in the description, the disturbing connection between the recent Diddy lawsuit and Michael Jackson's death will shock you. Plus, is Sexy read an example of black excellence, and then she talks about Diddy. By the way, again, let's go back to our first show this year. We began the broadcast year on January the 8th, the first, after we did our rundown of what has been going on since we took our Christmas break and all that. And in the second hour of, and all of you that are Founders Pass members, you have access to this podcast. Go back and listen to it. In hour number 2, we played a couple of clips from Cat Williams. Cat Williams did a 3-hour-long interview with Shannon Sharp, Club Shay Shay, right? I said Shanane last time. Club Shay Shay. And in that clip, or in those clips that we played, Cat Williams, a comedian, said, "It gonna happen this year. It gonna happen, okay? All them with all that says you can't believe what they do to those children. All that gonna be exposed. All of it this year coming out." And he said, Diddy, all them, it all coming out. It's all going to come out, Shannon, this year, all of it. Well, number one, how did Cat Williams know that? I don't really think that's a real question. It's rhetorical. But Cat Williams has been proven to be correct because Diddy was arrested or fled, whatever happened to him, back in May? When did they raid, when did the feds go in and raid his compound or whatever it was? He went in and then he disappeared, though. And this had been the subject here. There had been a lot of talk about this. This is well known. It's not as though this is a secret. It was in March, okay. It's not as though that it's some kind of a secret that Sean P. Diddy Combs is a perv. He has perv parties. The people that are neighbors, there have been rumors that have been flying around for over a decade now of young girls going in and out of that house, and the kids being involved in all this. Folks, this. He had a 50-foot bed in his backyard. This is the satanic perversion in which our culture is immersed. That's just the fact. Now, we're told that people like Michael Jackson were in on it. Again, there's no evidence for this. The evidence they have is this charge here. And then you have the character witness of Donald Trump going like, he never did that. That was not Michael. Michael was not like that. I just find this whole cult of defamation. This is what this is. Why are they going after Mark Robinson, the lieutenant governor of North Carolina? It doesn't have anything to do with the election coming, maybe a little bit, coming up in North Carolina. It's to get to Trump. They want to take out Trump's endorsements. If he's endorsed anyone, you're under investigation right now. You got Mr. Potato Head, CNN pervert boy, and I'm telling you, it's going to be discovered. That guy's a perv. Stelter. It is going to be discovered. You have the this supposed investigation. I just want people to think about this. For what purpose? What investigative purpose is there that you should go back 12, 14, 16 years in someone's life and start looking for basically for you guys are in the chat room today, all of you, your brothers and sisters that you love one another. Sure you do. In the Crusader Stadium chat room at crusadechannel.com/chat. Would you think it would be fair for one of you to lose something that is near and dear to you because you got into a tussle or into an argument in the Crusader Stadium chat room? I don't think it would be. I think that would be completely and totally inappropriate here. That's what they're trying to do to Mark Robinson. This is what you need. Maggie O'Connell put the picture in the chat room at crusadechannel.com/chat. You can see it right there. Diddy's 50-foot bed in his backyard. What the hell is a 50-foot bed for? Well, don't let your imagination get the better of you. You don't have to imagine. What do you think they were doing on that bed? Yes, that's what they were doing.
Nobody thought that was a red flag.
Did no one think that was going to these parties? Why is there a ginormous bed back there that I've been invited to as a 16-year-old girl? Of course, all of these things and all of these events ultimately are related here. And I just, when you go back and you think of the way Michael Jackson's life ended, if you watch that video, Candace Owens says she doesn't believe, and she plays the clip of someone that was interviewed, and said that no, Michael did not die the way that they said he did. He did not self-medicate himself. That doctor was tried. But that doctor was acquitted, wasn't he?
No, he's in prison.
Okay, he was. I thought the first go around he was acquitted. Did they have to go after him twice? I want to say.